I am Molly Sotak, and I am in British Modern Literature, and I will be discussing the poem Neutral Tones, written by Thomas Hardy. First, a reading of the poem. We stood by a pond that winter day, and the sun was white as though chidden of God, and a few leaves lay on the starving sod. They had fallen from an ash and were gray. Your eyes on me were as eyes that rove over tedious ripples of years ago, and some words played between us to and fro, on which lost them more by our love. The smile on your mouth was the deadest thing alive, even enough to strength to die, and a grin of bitterness swept thereby, like an ominous bird a wing. Since then, keen lessons that love deceives and right rings with wrong have shaped to me your face in the God-cursed sun, in a tree, in a pond, edged with the grayish leaves. The message of the poem that I found was that it is a story about love and loss. In the writing, we follow a relationship where they two people fall out of love and go from a strong relationship to a loss of connection. The message shining through the writing is that no matter how strong a love can become, there's constantly a possibility of loss between two people. Love is not considerably timeless, regardless of fantasies and deceptiveness. It can be distant at any time. The ending of a relationship can be from a loss of love and falling out of love. It does not have to be a conflict to end the relationship, but a change in mindset and attraction, which can then lead to a falling out of love. The story and how it is presented in a breakdown of stanzas. In the stanza 1, the poem begins with the setting being a winter day where it is described as gloomy in a very subtle way. We stood by a pond that winter day, and the sun was white, as though chidden of God, and a few leaves by on the starving sod. They had fallen from an ash and were gray. This just shows how it's a little gloomy of a spot, and it shows a scene that is calm and dim. I imagined it as almost like an overcasty day where there's not really sun shining, and it's usually like reflective off of the white snow. And then the second stanza explains the gaze of the other person and describes it as bored and uninterested. I thought that this stanza showed a lot of the loss of love in the conversation that they were having, and that the relationship was dwindling, and it is visible in the face of the lover that is being described. And then the next slide, where it shows stanza 3 and 4. The third stanza shows a true separation between the two, where it is described that that the lover's smile is dying, and it's also almost becoming forceful and only has life left to die. The smile on your mouth was the deadest thing, alive enough to have strength to die, and a grin of bitterness swept thereby, like an ominous bird a wing. The stanza speaks that the smile remaining is a bittersweet ending of the relationship, almost like it's slowly fading away, like the relationship is. Where the relationship is no longer visible, the love is not strong, but is just forceful and fading. The final stanza concludes that love is deceiving and is not limitless. It can fade eventually, and it's almost okay. I think the ending lines, where it describes the scenery once more, where everything is the same, still gloomy and gray. I found this poetic in the sense that just because it is not the ending that is perfect, it still goes on. The world is still moving along, regardless of the relationship with the two people. And then background information. When looking in to the poem further, I found that the connection to time and deception is also a prominent theme. So the poem references the past shining through, and how from years prior and the riddles fade over time. Like, I can see a lot of deceptiveness in this poem. Also, this poem was written in the late 1800s, and this was Thomas Hardy's one of his most popular work at this time, which I found pretty interesting. And then the challenges in the pace and the wording, I really did not find any challenges here. I thought the stanzas were put together very nicely and were sectioned very well. The flow whilst reading it was really good, and I think it formed a strong connection to the story. Like, it actually had a beginning and an ending, for my opinion. And I thought that it showed like changes in the connection and realization from the speaker, like almost allowing love to be deceptive after describing that love is being faded away. Yeah. That's my analysis on neutral tones.